CNBC, 29th of November 2023, Australia treads carefully regarding commerce with China as security worries grow. Even while Australia tries to patch things up with its most significant economic partner, relations between the two countries are still tense. Australia is still recovering from the devastating export restrictions Beijing imposed due to the former government's backing for an international investigation into China's management of the coronavirus. Trade pressures have pushed the Asia-Pacific country to engage with China, but security worries about Beijing's South China Sea claims have kept relations from restarting. When discussing relations with China, Darren Lim, a senior lecturer in international relations at the Australian National University in Canberra, stated that Canberra would not use the word. Australia's interests have remained unchanged since the Labor government took office in May 2022, indicating that there are still significant conflicts of interest between the two nations. But China understands that it must include Australia in its fold. China sees Australia as the Indo-Pacific's cornerstone American ally. According to 1TUS, a non-resident fellow at the Global China Hub of the American think tank Atlantic Council, other less reliable U.S. allies and partners frequently follow Australia's decisions in the rivalry between the two countries. Trade negotiations. Beijing bases some of its calculations on Australia's economic reliance on China. At its height, Australian Grape and Wine CEO, Lee McLean, told CNBC late last month, "We were exporting upwards of $1.2 billion worth of wine each year to China. The amount of wine that is exported today is a little over $8 million, so over a few years, that value has decreased by 98% to 99%, which is a massive shock to the industry and has been challenging for grape growers and winemakers across the nation," according to McLean. Following the diplomatic impasse over COVID-19, China sanctioned several goods in 2020-21, including wine. It is one of the few goods that tariffs still apply to, at least for a few more months. Anthony Albanese stated earlier this month that China has agreed to begin an expedited review of its taxes on Australian wine, which is anticipated to be finished in 5 months. This was the first visit by an Australian Prime Minister to China in 7 years. No market, or group of markets, could ever fully make up for what China has lost. Although we have occasionally been able to diversify and locate possibilities elsewhere, many businesses have found this has been a complicated and drawn-out process, according to McLean. According to the Australian government, China is Australia's top trading partner, making up about a third of the nation's global trade. From 2020 to 21, two-way commerce with China was valued at $267 billion Australian dollars. Worries about security. New tensions between the two nations are already beginning, only a few weeks after Albanese visits China. Beijing refuted Canberra's accusations this week that on November 14, in Japan's exclusive economic zone, a Chinese destroyer unprofessionally hurt a naval diver from Australia. In an interview with Sky News Australian on November 20, Albanese stated, "This was dangerous, it was unsafe. We've expressed our disagreement with what happened, our strongest objection, and the belief that this kind of incident shouldn't happen." The incident is just one of several instances in which Beijing has been forcefully establishing its claim over vast areas of the South China Sea with China's Navy and Air Force, even going so far as to conduct hostile maneuvers in international waters and airspace. The incident can also worsen security concerns in light of the already existing tensions in the region. Australia is already careful about possible flashpoints in the South China Sea and with relation to Taiwan, according to researchers from the Economist Intelligence Unit. since China rejected a 2016 verdict by the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague that invalidated its broad territorial claims in the South China Sea due to a lack of legal basis in a case brought by the Philippines, the country has increased its aggressiveness. Just days after the Philippines conducted a similar exercise with the United States, which is required by treaty to defend the Philippines from an attack, Australia, stepping up its defense preparation, recently concluded its first joint sea and air patrols with the Philippines in the area the Southeast Asian country claims as its exclusive economic zone. Apart from bilateral accords and military pledges such as the one with the Philippines, Australia is a member of 9 strategic alliances, which include the Quad, the Five Eyes, and AUKUS, none of which have China. Australia will obtain nuclear-powered, conventionally armed submarines as part of the AUKUS security partnership with the United States and the United Kingdom. These submarines will aid Australia's Navy in countering Chinese nuclear-powered boats in the region. Australia will probably have to compromise its economic and security needs when dealing with Beijing because the US is working to restrict China's access to crucial technology and vital minerals, adding another level of political and economic concern for Canberra. Even with all of the South China Sea battles over the last 2 weeks, the Chinese Commerce Ministry announced late on Thursday that it will continue to assess the necessity of duties on Australian wine. It will set an example for other regional countries if Beijing can convince Canberra to pivot back into China's embrace or at least to move towards an equidistant posture between the US and China, stated Sung of the Atlantic Council. Because of this, Beijing is prepared to go above and beyond in its efforts to mend fences with Australia.